Hey guys, what is up? So I'm here, and today we're going to be talking about something very essential in terms of understanding Underlords, and this is the idea of how to spend your money. This is really important for new players and intermediate players alike. It's a great way to improve at the game. I'm not going to talk about which units are good in this video. This is not going to be about like compositions, but it's going to be about basically timings on when to spend your money, when you should be looking to play for interest or economy, when you should be looking to level up, and when you should be looking to roll. So this is going to affect every single game you play, regardless of what composition you want to build. So basically, we are going to hop into a game, and I'm going to just try to show you, I'm going to basically cut to the most important parts of the game, but I'm going to try to show you exactly like what you should be thinking about doing with your gold at every time. Pretty funny opener. I want to mention a bit of a disclaimer. I'm not going to be talking about lose streaking here. Lose streaking is a strategy that deserves its own video entirely, and I'll be splitting that separately. So the early game is all about collecting these heroes and trying to pair them up so that you can complete into sets. This is round 5. We just faced the first human round just now, and we are fortunate enough to get 2 sets. So this gives our build a bit of direction. With tiny drow, we can go into something like hunters, or we can go into something like warriors, or we can split off into whatever and just kind of use these for value. But now that we have like a bit of direction, it's a lot harder, for example, to turn this into something like assassins is going to make a bit less sense here. So we can think about selling off one-ofs, right? If we look at our shop, you know, we've got Clockwork, Tinker, Shadow Shaman, Anti-Mage, Bloodseeker, and Bounty Hunter. Now the bounty's pairing, so we want to keep the bounty because pairing 1-cost, particularly these 1-cost units, not so much 2-cost units like Beastmaster or Slardar, things that cost 2 gold. These are worse to pair. The thing about 2-cost units is that you're 5 times less likely by round 10 to actually get a 2-star of a unit that costs 2, just because you're much less likely to see them. That's a really big deal. You really just want to be focusing on these units that cost 1 and trying to pair them up, right? So on round 5, as is pretty typical, we want to be thinking about leveling. And the way we're going to do that here is pretty straightforward. We're going to go ahead and sell off our Tinker. Because we've gotten some direction from these 2-stars, we're like, okay, we don't need to get past the early game. We're not going to be in Goblin mechs this game. You know, we're not going to use Tinker. We're probably not going into Assassins. So we can sell this basically, oh, well, sorry, the Assassins thing was talking about Bloodseeker. But we can basically do this for sure. I think I said Goblins twice when I meant Scrappy. I've got a bad habit of doing that. But now we can level up. Because there's nothing we really want to play for on bench here. In a lot of cases, I wouldn't spend this level because you want to keep certain options open that you otherwise don't have. And then we can just put this in. Because our board is strong enough, I'm pretty confident we can keep the Bloodseeker and then purchase the Anti-Mage when we win the round. Let's actually see how this plays out. But basically on round 5 in general, you should be looking to level up. Round 5 is a good time to do your force level, unless you have a lot of things that you want on your bench and you don't want to spend the gold to level. So don't feel like you have to level on 5. We got the 1 gold from winning this round, and because you get 1 gold before the shop closes, we can purchase the Anti-Mage, which actually improves our board. We'd rather have this than the level 1 Enchantress. So we find ourselves in round 7. Because we kind of have a direction, we don't have a lot of valuable units, we're going to want to play for our first point of interest this round. Interest is phenomenally important to succeeding in this game. As a new player, it's the first thing you must learn. Interest means when you have 10 multiple of 10 gold, you gain 10% of that gold, 1 gold for every 10 gold you have banked at the start of each new round. So, for example, before this round starts, we're going to go ahead and sell our Witch Doctor and our Morphling, and we're going to go up to 10 gold. This way, when the fight actually completes, let's go ahead and start this fight now, we're going to get 1 gold at the start of the next round. And these interest points are very important. I would highly recommend for a new player to aim to always hit your first interest point by round 8. In 7, I end up doing it a lot in 7 if I have like a strong board and good direction, or if I'm like trying to do a lose streak. But basically, if I'm in a situation where I feel like I don't need to bench my options. The other thing about this is now in Underlords, as opposed to auto chess, you can actually buy these options and still get locked in for this interest. This is a big change between Underlords and Auto Chess, basically, because what this means is I can play for the interest and the bench at the same time a little bit. One of the things we just bought was this Tusk, which is nice because there's this second Tusk in the shop that will allow us to pair up. So it's a little bit counterintuitive in Underlords, but basically interest will get snapshotted. Your money will get snapshotted at the beginning of a battle, like a combat phase, and then if that money was a multiple of 10, of course truncated, it will give you 1 gold per 10, right? So the gold you spend or the gold you gain during that time, the battle phase, doesn't actually affect your interest point, with one exception, that being the 1 gold that you gain from winning the round. So if I'm at 9 gold and I win the round, I'll still get interest. But it's always a risk being at 9 gold and hoping you'll win the round. You end up doing that quite a bit. So we're in round 8. The first thing we should ask ourselves, as always, is can I hit the next interest point? It's really important to think about that. Like, am I hitting the next interest point and what am I giving up? Because I'm seeing a shop that I don't really want. I mean, Alchemist is a fairly good hero, but it doesn't really fit with what I have right now. And playing for interest is going to help us kind of snowball out of control this game, right? I think right now we would like warriors to get on the board, so we would do something like this. Pudge wants to be in to pair with the Drow, giving Heartless, and we want the third warrior. I accidentally misclicked on that one. We want the third warrior to be in here. Anti-Mage is a great filler hero. Anti-Mage is amazing because he will basically just shut down one early game enemy and even dominates a demon passive. So because we want to put the Pudge in on this board, I don't think we can get to next interest point without selling something we'd rather not. We can do the math. We can sell the Crystal Maiden and the Puck to get up to 4, and then we can sell these 2 and maybe these 2 to get up to 8. We'd basically have to sell our entire bench, and we wouldn't be able to keep the Tusk. So it's perhaps not worth it. In this case, though, we're selling a couple pairs, but there's nothing on the board that's actually that great. So check this out. We have 2 Tinkers. You know, we have an opportunity to pair Tinker. We have 4 Tinies, and we've got 4 Drows. And we also have a pair of Bounty Hunters. In this case, though, I think I am going to play for this interest. This interest is very powerful, and the level 3 Dream isn't necessarily going to be super relevant in these early games. I just want to get my interest online as soon as possible, guaranteed. So what we're going to do here, actually, is we're going to go ahead and sell the Puck, the Crystal Maiden, the 2 Bounty Hunters, the Bloodseeker, the Tiny, the Tinker, and the Enchantress. We're going to sell our entire bench, and then we're going to start the next fight at 20 gold. Now, when the next fight's going, we can buy the Tusk and the Drow. We're snapshotted in for the 2 gold interest that we're going to get at the start of the next round. We're probably going to win the fight because we have a very good board already, and we've managed to pair up the Tusk and get a 4th Drow to start maybe thinking about a 3-star if we can eventually get there after that, right? So this is a really good spot to be in, basically. And this is, I think, kind of how you need to think about playing for interest. The main thing to understand about what just happened is we did that because our board was already strong, and we didn't feel like we needed these pairs. Pairs are powerful when you need direction, when you're not sure what you're going, right? But right now, we have kind of what we want. We have the powerful units on board, and even if we complete Bounty Hunter or Tinker, it doesn't really fit with the 2 stars we already have, right? That's the most important thing to understand. If we didn't have 2 stars already, or if Bounty and Tinker did fit with the 2 stars we had, we would never sell there. And now we're on round 9, which is, I think, a very, very good time to be looking at leveling up. We can't hit this interest point. Look at this. We're at 27. We can't get to 30 without selling stuff we would rather not. We can sell both the Tusk and the Drow, and then hope we win the next fight and get up to 30. But it's not guaranteed that we'll win the next fight, and we actually do value this Tusk a lot more than the Drow, because Tusk going to level 2 will really help us dominate early. So what we're going to go do instead, we're going to purchase the Anti-Mage, we're going to level before the round. 9 is a great time to level. You should typically be leveling, in general, on average, leveling once on round 5 and then once on round 9 is a good way to do it. And this will help us kind of play for the streak that we've developed, because you gain golds when you're on a streak. And it won't hurt our interest. And this is kind of how you want to play Underlords. You want to play around these interest points, right? Now we're still at the 2 gold interest, and we haven't harmed that, and we couldn't really get to the 3 reliably. We can even just buy the other Tiny, and because we're snapshotted in, there's no downside in buying these. Even though, in this case, honestly, I'm kind of just doing it to make a point. We're not really going to need these, with the exception of Beastmaster, because this could lead to a hunter's build. So the next round, after mud golems, we're in round 11 now. Let's pretend we don't see anything in our shop we want. Honestly, this doom here is really juicy. I would surely snap this and shove it in my board. However, let's pretend we don't see this doom here, all right? Let's be a little bit greedy because we're streaking and we feel like we can beat basically every board right now. Like I said, our board is very powerful. The odds of winning are very high. The 3 warriors is great early. 2 heartless is just always good. And we've even got something like an anti-mage with a Mask of Madness and a Blightstone, which is just currently on basically a random unit. So we have a very powerful board, and we don't really need to be working for 3 stars. I think, like, in general, working for 3 stars is nice if you kind of know you're going to be going that in the future and you want to keep your options open, but playing for interest is kind of even nicer. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start playing this out, and because we want both the anti-mage and the tusk, we want to kind of keep our streak alive. We're actually going to sell our 4th drow here, and we're going to keep both of these options up. This is a bit of an interesting play, because basically we're banking on winning this round. We have 39 gold interest, and we want to snapshot 39 and then get up to 40. This is basically a greed play, sort of. We don't want to have to sell the Tusk or the Anti-Mage because they actually will complete into good things later. So it's very risky to do this. In this case, we get punished, right? But worst case scenario, we sold the Drow for no reason, and we were still able to keep the Tusk and the Anti-Mage. I think we had very good odds going into that play. It was probably like a 80% chance that we were going to win whatever board we queued into. So I'm confident that's like the correct play to do in that spot if the Doom isn't in our shop and we don't have the choice to like preserve our streak. Again, the example is if the Doom is not there. In any living situation, I would snap this Doom in faster than anything else. But keeping the Anti-Mage is rewarded here, and we can even bank on the Tiny and start working for a level 3. So, as you can see, it's round 15, and we've accumulated a lot of gold. We've actually managed to level to 7. We can go ahead and very quickly do something like this. Friendly reminder, you know, flip your board against wolves. But basically, we just hit level 7 because we've been playing for interest very well. We don't want to dip below 50 gold. Keep in mind, interest caps at 50 or 5 gold per round. So we don't care about spending gold above 50, but we don't want to go below 50 for these like mid-game rounds. Again, playing for interest is very important, and how the mid-game in auto chess works is typically between levels, like between rounds 10 and 20 almost, you're often just not going to be spending your gold basically at all, right? You will level on 9 often. I'm not really worried about this here. You'll level on 9 often, and you will want to level on probably 17 at the latest, right? But here we're already 7. I guess the rule of thumb in general would be level to 5 on 5, level to 6 on 9, level to 7 on 17, round 17 by 17, but sometimes earlier is fine, and then level to 8 on 21, and that's kind of what we're going to shoot for here. 8 by 21 is really important at high levels in particular, because opponents will be kind of aiming to power spike around then and start effectively like snowballing and getting ready to blow you out. You'll fall behind really quickly if you don't level to 8 on 21. But the most important thing is just not burning through your interest. Be passive. Play the long game. Interest is just playing the long term. It's okay if you're losing. It's okay if your health is going down, if you're losing fights, if your health is going like even below 50, right? Now, to a certain point, you don't want your health dropping below like 30-ish, I'd say, but you kind of just want to play the long game. So this is how this like mid game works in auto chess. A lot of people have like gambling addictions and they just want to roll here, but you just want to chill, because especially with most builds, your rolls when you re-roll your shop are going to literally be more effective when you are at a higher level. So here, as you can see, not only are we win streaking naturally, but we're also playing for interest. We actually went to level 8 on round 17. Normally, this is where you see people level to 7. Like, there are some games where some players would end up even level 6 on this, but we're level 8 because we have just a great economy to be able to play for. A large part of that is because we're against bots. But basically, this is how you want to think about these like rounds 10 through 20. just economy. It's gonna be a little boring. You at this point of the game, you've pretty much decided for the most part what your like late game comp wants to look like. It looks like we're in for like some kind of 6 warrior builds, and that's okay. Maybe like pair up beast. We're looking for a Lycan to pair up beast because we got like rolled into Tooth and Claw. I'm like, this is not necessarily the best example, but that's okay. So now we enter the late game. Generally, the late game is after round 20. Like early game is 1 through 10, mid game is 11 through 20, and late game is 21 onwards. This is where every good player is level 8. People are getting their comps online. Every good comp is typically built around coming online by level 8, otherwise you will fall behind and get smashed. And here we happen to be level 8 very early. In fact, it's not even typically late game yet because we're still in 19, but we happen to kind of be entering the late game a little bit early. So the thing about Underlords is you kind of always have to ask yourself what the next step of your comp is to improve. Like, how does this get better? And right now, as we're about to enter round 19, we definitely want to have our 6 warrior buff online. My positioning is awful here. Again, this game is just a demonstration of like gold usage, but basically having the 6 warriors here is neat. We're on a streak and we have a surplus of gold. We don't need more than 50, and the next step is not going to be leveling, because with warriors we're not looking for any one big like 5-cost unit. If we had such a good start with something like mages that's looking for lich, or goblins that's looking for techies or something like that, maybe we would try to level to 9. But because we're not looking for some crazy big like 5-cost unit, we're going to be rolling down here before this round actually starts. And we can just spend some money here, just improving our board. Here's a Juggernaut and a Lone Druid. We're probably not using the Lone Druid, but the most important thing is our board. And we're not, I don't think we're building another anti-mage, but this is fine. The most important thing is our board gets a little bit better right now. So here's a Lycan, which I think gives us a bit of an improvement over something like a Juggernaut. So we don't really need some of these other options. Our Drow at this point is clearly not going to level 3. So we can buy the Lycan, replace it with this level 1 Juggernaut, get our Beasts online, which also pairs for 4 Heartless, because we happen to have Fall from Grace, which is a powerful upgrade to our board. At this point, before the round starts, we can just go ahead and I guess sell the 2 Juggernauts. A Lone Druid is also a fine sell. I don't think we're really using either of these heroes, and it doesn't really matter. And then we're totally fine just kicking off this round. Although, honestly, we can roll a bit further. We can roll like 1 deeper because we don't really need this. Because if we found the Tusk, it would improve the board. So we want to stay above 50. We're trying to strengthen our board a bit just because it would be nice to win this round and not lose our streak, even though we're not worried about losing it. And we know that in the next several rounds, the next step to improving our board is just going to be to roll. 3 more Tinies is a pretty decent out. It's going to help us improve our board. But really, we're looking for like 1 more Kunkka, 1 more Tusk, or maybe something like 2 more Dooms and 2 more Lycans. There's a few things we're looking for, and leveling is very far away. So you'll notice this is the first time I even mentioned the option of rolling, and that's intentional. You do not want to spend your gold to re-roll before this point in the game, right? Before you're hitting like maximum interest peaks, very typically there are maybe some really edge cases where it's okay to roll, but as a generalization, you really should not be rolling until you're just capping out an interest, because it's an economy based game. You want to end up with the best board at the end. It's okay sacrificing some health in the meantime to get there. Health is kind of a resource in this game, like in many card games. You just want to let it burn down, and as long as it lowers your kind of like early game potential, because when your health gets low enough, you run the risk of actually just dying and ending your game there. But until your health gets low, that's not a worry, and your gold is playing for your late game potential, because gold will improve your final board at the very end, basically. So until this point in the game, you really don't want to be doing anything crazy with your gold. See, we're at 75, we're just coasting, and now we're rolling down. So the late game is defined as basically, for the mid game, we're basically doing nothing, honestly. It's just like chilling, letting my interest pump up. Now in late game, the decision here is important, which is when do you level and when do you roll? We're already level 8, and when you're level 8, you pretty much do want to roll. It's very, very rare that you have a game where you are level 8 and instead of rolling for more packs, more shop options, that you want to level to 9 immediately there. It can happen sometimes if you have a nutty start with like scrappy inventors. I'm trying. I almost said Goblin Mechs. Scrappy Inventors. If you have a really good start with them and you're streaking, you can be like, okay, well, I think I've won the game already. I might as well just level to 9 and make sure I get my techies online, right? That can happen, but reasonably speaking, at this point in the game, you sort of want to almost alternate a bunch of rolls, several rounds of rolls between like leveling, right? And the reason for that is because it kind of like, it depends on what makes your board stronger at any given time. Right now, paradoxically, we actually get a decent amount stronger just by leveling because our board is pretty taken up. We can put in the Tiny over the Anti-Mage, and this might be an improvement, but having a level 2 Anti-Mage with Mask of Madness benched is definitely something fairly powerful. We can put the Mask of Madness on the Drow as well, and that's totally fine. But in this spot, it's pretty unusual just because we have a 2-star benched, but there's a consideration to level here. In almost every situation, you wouldn't even have that consideration. In this case, let's just roll. So in this case, we are looking to improve our board. I don't think we're in Drow, but we're actually very close to Tiny now. Tiny just became a huge out. When something is one off of completion or one off of upgrading your board in some way, that's what I call an out, which is basically... Kunkka is an example of an out. We're looking for a Kunkka, something that in a singleton capacity can immediately improve your board is kind of an important thing to be looking for. Doom was not an out because we needed 2 Dooms to be able to improve our board, but let's go ahead and pick this up. So now our board just got quite a bit better. We got the Doom 2, we got the Kunkka 2, and now our outs have diminished, right? Kunkka was an out, Doom was kind of half an out, right? Because, you know, we were thinking about Doom at the point in time, but we needed 2 of them, and they're pretty rare, so it was, like, not even half an out. We still have, you know, the Tusk out, because we're still looking for a 3rd Tusk, and Lycan is sitting here. We could find 2 Lycans, but it's not super likely. However, our outs haven't actually diminished since we started rolling, if you think about it. Because while we did complete up to Kunkka, we also got closer to completion for our Tiny. So this is a really interesting spot. We rolled a little bit aggressively. You know, we burned down our gold a little bit more aggressively than we normally would, just because we have this Doom here, and that cost us like our interest, and that's totally okay. We're gonna let this round play out now. We're okay dipping 1 point in interest, right? We're at 40 gold now. I'm totally happy paying 1 golden interest to have this Doom 2 out around earlier. And now what we're going to do is we're going to keep rolling. Like I said, our Tiny got closer to completion, so rolling is still a very tangible prospect for us. Rolling is still how our board improves at this point in the game. And until we complete our Tiny, rolling is going to be the best thing for us to do. We're not in the business of leveling yet. A lot of new players tend to make the mistake of leveling to 9 or 10 even too early. You want to level to 9 typically later, and you basically don't want to level to 10. So we can roll a little bit here. I'm not sure if Slardar is even something that's going to be amazing for us, but in this case, I think we can just chill. Obviously, you know, in a real scenario, our Mask of Madness would be on our Drow, and our position would be very different. Maybe we'd be banking on Retaliate, but this is fine. So again, there's 3 things to do with your gold. There is interest, which is our top priority right now. There's no reason not to play for interest. We're winning. If we drop our win streak, so be it. You know, we don't want to like push aggressively to try to keep this win streak alive. And then, because then if it fails, then we just like, we get the worst of both worlds, right? So we're okay if we drop this win streak. We have our interest carrying us at this point. Second priority in this case is rolling, and it's either going to be rolling or leveling, but in this case, this is going to be how our board improves, and we're okay with that. The Tiny is going to be a big upgrade because not only will it improve our board, but it'll consolidate our board, which is really important because it'll let us get an Anti-Mage here. And here's Tusk, and now maybe I'm thinking, our outs did just drop. Maybe I'm thinking that at this point, we're only looking for 1 out on our rolls, really. Getting 2 Lycans can happen, but it's not what I'd call an out. The value of rolling did just lower, so now I have to make a decision. Is rolling still the next way I improve my board? People always ask me, when do you level? And the answer isn't really, it's not about when leveling is good, it's about when rolling and econ aren't good, that's when you look to level, right? Also, if you have something good on your bench that you want to shove in, and this is a bit of a tough one, in this spot, because my outs have diminished, and I'm really just looking for 1 unit in the entire game to really improve my board, I do think that it's a good idea to level here. I think that's fine. Actually, I don't. in this case, but I think it's a better example if I like kind of switch it up. I'll tell you what, I'll actually like play this how I should. So it's not just the Tiny that's an out, I should mention, it's also the Slardar, because we have Retaliate, and Slardar would be an improvement to one of the units on the board if it gets to level 2, right? So our outs haven't diminished quite enough yet, and here's Lycan, so our outs are even more, right? Like, sometimes when you're rolling, it can be basically committing you into rolling harder, right? Like if you roll and you can find something that makes you want to roll more, because now we're even closer to Lycan. Now we feel like we can't stop rolling. Here's a Slardar, which gets us kind of back to square one, so we're kind of tied up, right? Like our Lycan got closer, our Slardar got deleted as an option, so our Tiny got there, but now, as you can see, our Anti-Mage also got there, which is kind of funny. So here, we can just do this. I think this is like a fair improvement to the board. We want the Slardar in at this point, but there's kind of like no room for it without losing the Anti-Mage. So we can do something like this. I mean, presumably we'd abuse Retaliate by having our Slardar up in front. And as you can see, now we're at the point where, okay, our Anti-Mage is one away, and now we can finally level, I think, because our outs have diminished to the point we're still looking for two things. We're still looking for Lycan and Anti-Mage, and those both do immediately improve the board in some way. Although Anti-Mage 3 has a harder time fitting in quite easily here, I'd like this to be my 9th unit. I feel like I'm full up on units now. Before I had the Slardar, I was okay having like 6 warriors, but now I kind of need 7 because every warrior is doing an important thing. Every warrior is providing undead in the form of Kunkka Lycan, or beast in the form of Lycan Tusk, or Doom in the case of Doom. Doom is just a really good unit. So I don't think I can fit in the Anti-Mage even if I complete it here, which means the next step is leveling, right? So this is kind of what I'm talking about. You roll, there's like about 4 or 5 rounds, depending on like when your rolling is good. That's when you roll, and then there's a point where rolling is no longer good. And then you're like, okay, I got this good unit on my bench. We'll just level here. And then once we level, we continue rolling. So the late game is about alternating, kind of rolling and leveling in that way. And at a certain point, there will be a time where I will want to spend all my gold down. Basically just burn through interest. That's usually going to come in the very late game, like when I'm starting to lose boards, or when my health is like dropping below 40-ish, maybe sometimes below 30, is like, okay, it's time to, you know, eject my load. It's time to get roll down, spend all my gold, and stop playing for interest, right? And that's kind of an important time to be able to decide. And that's basically it. That's what you need to know at this point. It seems like, you know, obviously this game is going to go on for like 10 or 15 more rounds, depending on how long these guys last. But that's all you need to know. I mean, the game progresses, like we are in late game. We are in like the end of the game, and this is kind of what you do. You just alternate leveling. Here we'll level, we'll put on our AM, you know, put Mask of Madness on him in a normal scenario. Reposition to try to like get benefit out of AM. You want this against the caster, and then now that we're 9 and now that we've got this extra slot, now we're gonna roll down a little bit more. We're gonna consolidate, we're gonna find our AM, we're gonna find our Lycan, maybe start working on some, you know, 5-cost units, some legendaries, and that's it. Like, the game will naturally kind of follow that course until it ends. Just make sure we're not dying with a lot of gold saved. Make sure to blow your load early in terms of like your bank. If you start feeling scared, that did that for us, not even difficult. But like, you know, just play for economy early, and that's it. So that's the video. I'm sorry this was rambly. I have a very bad habit. I try to write scripts. It doesn't really work. I can't stay on track, but hopefully this was informational for a majority of you guys. That's it. So, you know, if you want to get better at the game, I'm gonna try to make more guides. I want to do this. It's, again, I have this issue with the recordings. This is why I usually stick to Twitch streams, because it's a lot easier for my just super rambly, disconnected nature. I'll try harder, guys. Okay. See you in the next guide if you stick around. Don't forget to like I can't do it.